The movie opens in Seoul, where we meet In Chang, a skilled member of the military's bomb disposal unit. His team is dismantling an unexploded shell from the Korean War. Dangerous work, but for In Chang, it's routine. Today, however, is special. It's his final day before retirement. He can finally leave the noise and danger behind. After the bomb is safely disarmed, In Chang drives home, calling Choi along the way. She's just come back from a hospital checkup and assures him both she and the baby are doing fine. When he eagerly asks about the baby's gender, she laughs and tells him to come home first. It's a surprise, but before he can reach her, the ground starts to tremble. A massive earthquake hits without warning. News spreads quickly. The tremors reach all the way to Seoul, shaking buildings apart and sending the city into chaos. Amid collapsing structures and terrified screams, In Chang fights his way through the destruction, desperate to reach Choi. He dodges falling debris, narrowly escaping death again and again, driven only by the thought of his wife and unborn child. Elsewhere, Gi-yeon, the senior secretary for civil affairs, visits Professor Kang, a scientist who had long predicted this very disaster. Once dismissed as paranoid, Kang is now preparing to leave for the United States. Gi-yeon pleads for his help, but he refuses, until she threatens to expose secrets from his past. Reluctantly, Kang agrees to assist. In a tense government meeting, Kang explains that Mount Paektu's eruption is just the beginning. The volcano has 4 magma chambers, and the first explosion has triggered a chain reaction. The final eruption could wipe out half the Korean Peninsula. His daring solution: detonate a powerful explosion underground, equal to 6 nuclear warheads, to relieve pressure and redirect the magma safely. Officials are horrified. The plan risks violating denuclearization treaties and could spark global conflict. Yet, behind closed doors, the South Korean president authorizes the mission in secret, believing it's the only chance to save the nation. Soon after, In Chang receives a call from his former colonel. He's being called back for one last mission, heading into North Korea to handle the explosives for Kang's risky plan. In Chang hesitates. He's retired, and his wife needs him. But when the colonel promises to evacuate Choi safely on a U.S. military transport plane, he accepts. For his family and his country, In Chang steps back into the fire one final time. In Chang reluctantly agrees to join the mission, but only on one condition. He wants confirmation that his baby is a boy. Smiling softly, he returns home to tell Choi he's been called back for one last assignment. The next day, In Chang and his team are briefed on their mission. They learn that North Korea still has 6 long-range nuclear missiles hidden and intact. The operation is split into 2 parts. In Chang's unit will dismantle one of the missiles, while a special operations team will handle transport and detonation. They're also told about a North Korean informant named Jun Pyong, who knows the location of the weapons, but is currently imprisoned. South Korea secretly implanted him with a GPS tracker, so their job is to break him out, recover the uranium, and set the bomb to detonate deep inside the mines. When the mission begins, the 2 teams take off in separate transport planes. But things quickly go wrong. Volcanic ash fills the air, and one of the planes malfunctions. The Special Forces aircraft crashes, and In Chang's team barely manages to parachute to safety before theirs goes down too. Once on the ground, they're shocked to discover that the other team didn't make it. The entire mission now rests on them alone. With no choice, In Chang leads his squad to the prison holding Jun Pyong. The facility is in chaos after the earthquake. Guards are dead, and prisoners are rioting. Amid the wreckage, they find Jun Pyong alive and unharmed. When they tell him about the mission, he mocks them, calling them amateurs. Still, they need him, so they free him but keep him handcuffed. Later, Jun Pyong is allowed to wash up. As he does, he secretly steals In Chang's wallet, finding a photo of the ultrasound and a map of the mines. Clever and unpredictable, he memorizes the map, then tears it into pieces and eats it. Soon after, as they pass a collapsed statue of the North Korean leader, Jun Pyong remarks that he used to see it every morning from his apartment before being imprisoned. When In Chang realizes his wallet is missing, Jun Pyong casually hands it back and admits he ate the map, but claims he remembers every detail. This enrages one of the soldiers, who punches him before being pulled away. As the group moves forward, Jun Pyong asks to step aside to relieve himself. The same angry soldier follows to keep watch, but Jun Pyong seizes the moment. He unlocks his handcuffs, attacks the soldier, and disappears into the distance, leaving behind the GPS tracker. The team finds their comrade unconscious and realizes Jun Pyong has escaped. Frustrated, they head back toward the city to search for him. Then, In Chang spots the fallen statue and remembers what Jun Pyong said about the view from his apartment. Looking up at a nearby building, he knows instantly that's where Jun Pyong went. Inside, Jun Pyong has indeed returned home. He changes clothes, gathers hidden weapons, and prepares for whatever comes next. Jun Pyong returns home and finds his wife strung out on drugs. Furious, But desperate, he demands to know where their daughter is. Through hazy words, she tells him the girl is staying with her brother in Pocheon, near Mount Paektu. When Jun Pyong accuses her of betraying him to the authorities, she quietly admits it. Rage flashes across his face. He fires a shot into the ceiling, the sound echoing through the shattered apartment. Outside, In Chong and his team hear the gunfire and rush in. They find Jun Pyong holding his wife at gunpoint, trembling with anger. But when it comes down to it, he can't pull the trigger. He lowers the weapon and collapses in frustration as In Chong's team moves in and arrests him. Afterward, In Chong loses all trust in Jun Pyong and keeps him out of the mission planning. Jun Pyong mocks his leadership, laughing at what he calls rookie strategy. Still, when the time comes, he guides the team to the hidden North Korean nuclear site, a heavily guarded military base buried beneath a camouflaged factory. Inside, they discover an elevator concealed within a shipping container. Jun Pyong enters the passcode, and together they descend deep underground. The team secures Jun Pyong to a railing, suits up, and begins dismantling the missiles. Just as they extract the uranium and load it into their custom detonator, another violent earthquake shakes the facility. In the chaos, Jun Pyong breaks free and escapes. He contacts a Chinese associate who offers refuge for him and his daughter in exchange for the bomb. But there's a catch. He must bring a technician capable of disarming it. Torn between survival and guilt, Jun Pyong realizes he has to go back for In Chang's trapped team. Meanwhile in Seoul, Choi feels the tremors shake the city once more. Gripped by fear, she packs her things and drives toward the military base. Traffic halts on a bridge just as a massive tsunami strikes. Her car is swept into the water, but through sheer determination, she fights the current and makes it to safety. Back at headquarters, Professor Kang meets with Gion and admits that their calculations were wrong. The iron ore deposits in the 7th mine are accelerating the eruption. He proposes targeting a weaker point to prevent the final catastrophic blast. In North Korea, In Chong's team prepares to withdraw when they're suddenly ambushed by an unknown force. Gunfire erupts everywhere. Using heat sensors, the attackers track them relentlessly until In Chang detonates a fuel truck, masking their signatures long enough to escape. Then comes the shocking revelation. Their attackers are American troops. The US military, having learned about the mission, considers it a treaty violation and shuts the operation down. During the chaos, In Chong and Jun Pyong are separated from the rest of the team. They steal a vehicle to flee, but Jun Pyong betrays him, stunning In Chang with a taser. Back in South Korea, the mission is officially aborted. The US condemns the border incursion and nuclear theft as an act of aggression. Professor Kang, disillusioned, decides to leave. Gian pleads with him to stay, knowing South Korea's survival depends on him, but he refuses. On his way to the evacuation base, he meets Choi, who is exhausted and in tears. He comforts her, not revealing that her husband is still deep inside North Korea. Meanwhile, Jun Pyong has handcuffed the unconscious In Chang in the vehicle beside him. His plan is clear now. Deliver both the bomb and In Chang to the Chinese in Pocheon, where his daughter is hiding. But when he stops the car for a moment to relieve himself, In Chang seizes the chance. He fights free of the cuffs, ready to take back control. When Jun Pyong tries to restrain In Chang again, In Chang suddenly swallows the GPS tracker, saying his team will now be able to find him wherever he goes. Furious, Jun Pyong attacks him, and the two get into a violent fight that ends with their vehicle crashing into a tree. Dazed and trapped, In Chang breaks down in tears, confessing that he might never make it home to his wife or even see his unborn child. He says he doesn't even know what to name the baby. In Wang if it's a boy, or something else if it's a girl. Hearing this, Jun Pyong, himself a father, softens. He helps In Chang up, and together they decide to continue the mission on foot. Carrying the detonator, they walk through the devastated landscape, sharing a rare moment of calm. In Chang admits he doesn't know his baby's gender, and Jun Pyong teasingly says it's visible in the ultrasound photo, but refuses to reveal it. Their conversation turns unexpectedly light when Jun Pyong offers to trade the secret for a spoiler of a drama he missed while in prison. Before they can finish joking, gunfire erupts. The US military ambushes them, mistaking them for enemies. Just when it seems hopeless, In Chang's remaining team members arrive by bus, rescuing the pair. A chaotic chase follows, ending when a massive explosion on a bridge sends US vehicles plunging into a ravine, giving them a narrow escape. Meanwhile, in South Korea, chaos spreads after another massive quake. Choi and Professor Kang reach the evacuation point where a ship is preparing to leave for America. Kang is allowed on board due to his US citizenship, but Choi is denied. She refuses to leave, still waiting for her husband. Feeling guilty, Kang finally tells her the truth, that In Chang is still in North Korea, risking his life to stop the eruption. Shocked, and heartbroken, she stays behind as Kang contacts Gion, urging her to create a new plan to prevent total disaster. Back in North Korea, Jun Pyong is torn between completing the mission and finding his daughter. At one point, he even points a gun at In Chang, but seeing the captain's unwavering determination, he relents. He reveals the location of the mine and leaves the bomb behind, choosing instead to go find his daughter. Meanwhile, communication between South Korea and the field team has been cut off by US interference. The Korean command defies orders, restoring contact with In Chang. Professor Kang warns him to change course. The real weak point of the volcano is Tunnel 7, not Tunnel 9. With no map and no guide, In Chang realizes he must find Jun Pyong again. Elsewhere, Jun Pyong finally reaches Pocheon, where he finds his daughter barely alive. The sight of her breaks him completely, and for the first time, he understands what truly matters. Jun Pyong finally finds his daughter in Pocheon, but the moment shatters him. She's traumatized, weak, and doesn't even recognize her own father. Overwhelmed, he breaks down in tears just as the Chinese agents arrive, demanding the bomb. Jun Pyong pleads with them to at least let his daughter cross the border, but when he admits he doesn't have the device, they shoot him without mercy. Before they can finish him off, chaos erupts as US forces arrive, and a violent firefight breaks out between both sides. Amid the gunfire, In Chang appears, waving a white cloth to show surrender. He reveals that he has the bomb, but the timer has already been activated. Calmly, he explains that it's set to coincide with the fourth eruption, saying, when that happens, everything ends anyway. Terrified, both the Americans and Chinese flee. Determined to finish the mission, In Chang prepares to head to the mine alone, but Jun Pyong insists on going with him. Their team escapes with Jun Pyong's daughter, who cries as she watches her father walk away. Before descending into the tunnels, In Chang calls his wife. Tearfully, he apologizes for lying about his mission. She pleads for him to come home soon to meet their baby, and he promises he will, before ending the call in silence. Meanwhile, Choi suddenly goes into labor as tremors shake Seoul, forcing Professor Kang and Gion to rush her to the hospital. In the collapsing mine, In Chang and Jun Pyong reach the final tunnel, but the elevator stops working after another quake. In Chang decides to cut the cable and descend manually with the bomb. Before they part, he finally tells Jun Pyong the ending of Damo, that everyone dies. Jun Pyong laughs softly, then admits he never knew the baby's gender. It was just a bluff to keep their spirits up. With a faint smile, he tells In Chang to live and find out for himself. In one final act of redemption, Jun Pyong locks In Chang out of the elevator and descends alone. Gravely injured but resolute, he sacrifices himself, carrying the bomb deep into the earth before it detonates. The massive explosion halts the eruption, saving millions across the Korean Peninsula. Back in Seoul, Choi safely gives birth. A year later, the Korean Peninsula begins to heal. North and South Korea rebuild together, and Professor Kang returns from the US, dedicating himself to a new energy project harnessing magma from Mount Paektu. At home, In Chang lives peacefully with Choi, their baby, and their adopted daughter, soon Jun Pyong's child. The family laughs together, finally at peace. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below.